Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm Sarah Albritton, a narcoleptic comedian, and this is the podcast where I interview people in my bed and we talk about sleep, comedy, and relationships. This week I interviewed presidential nominee Ben Gleib. Ben is one of the few guests that I didn't actually interview in my bed. I did this interview on location on a couch. I didn't think it would be right for a presidential nominee to do a podcast interview in a bed. Let's be honest. Ben's running for president, and in order to get on the debate stage for the Democratic nominations, you need 65,000 individual donations around the United States, across the United States. It can be any amount of donation. It doesn't have to be a certain dollar amount. It could be like $1. And if you would love to see somebody that is blue collar, understands problems of working class people, it would mean a lot if you could please go to Gleib2020.com and make a donation. Even if it's $1, whatever you can give, it would help the campaign a lot. That's Gleib2020.com. That's Gleib 2020.com. And you can also follow Ben on Twitter and Instagram at Ben Gleib. Ben has been a political commentator for over 10 years. He's spoken on CNN, ABC. He's debated Tommy Lauren. Ben is also known for being a stand-up comic. He has traveled all around the country. He's been doing stand-up for close to 20 years. He's hosted the TV show Idiot Test. He's been a panelist on Chelsea Lately. He also hosts a monthly show at the Hollywood Improv called We the People, which brings together a comedian and a commentator from the left and one of each from the right, trying to find solutions through humor. He also hosts the podcast Last Week on Earth with Ben Gleib. You can catch Ben this weekend in Calgary doing stand-up, and please follow him on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Gleib, and please go to Gleib2020.com and make that donation. Sleeping with Sarah is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah to get a free audiobook of your choice. This week, I would like to recommend Life Will Be the Death of Me and You Too by Chelsea Handler. Again, that's audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. If you like the podcast, please rate and review on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also keep up with me. Go to sleepysarah.com to find out my future dates. And please follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Sarah Albritton. Well, let's get started with the show. Sleeping with Sarah. Welcome to Sleeping with Sarah. I'm here with my guest, Ben Gleib. How are you doing, Ben?
I'm good. How are you, Sarah?
Good. How'd you sleep last night?
I slept pretty good. I went to bed at 5 a.m., woke up at about 10:30, and so I feel pretty rested.
So putting a lot of late night hours in lately?
It's been insane, yeah. I usually am a night owl and go to bed between 3 and 5 most nights, but usually I'll sleep an average of maybe 5 to 7 hours in my normal life, but since this campaign has started, I've been sleeping approximately probably an average of about 4.5 hours.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, like last week, I one night went to bed at 4 a.m. I had to wake up at 6:30 to drive to Sirius Satellite Radio to do Nikki Glazer's show. Did that for an hour, came back, slept for another 2 hours, then another full day of campaigning. Wow.
Yeah, so you, for those of you who don't know, Ben Gleib is running for president.
Correct. Of America. Of America,
yes, to clarify, running for president of America. Mm-hmm. And when did you decide to run? Because you've been involved in politics for like, what, 10 plus years? You talk about...
Yeah, I mean, over probably about 12 years when I started doing things on camera politically. Been engaged politically for, probably at this point, 17 years or so. And I've just been... It's become a huge passion of mine, and my podcast, Last Week on Earth, has been dedicated to politics and trying to get people who don't really care about politics to listen to it, because I try to make it more accessible and not tuck over people's heads and make it inappropriate even at times so that it's engaging. And then Donald Trump got elected, and I'm not a fan, to say the least.
Yeah, I think, that makes sense.
And so I realized two things at that time, that we have to do everything we can to stop him. He's really eroding our values and what we stand for, and our institutions are weakening under his leadership, and our adversaries are being strengthened and infiltrating our country, and even the concept of truth is disappearing with his ability to call fake news to what's real and to say things are real that are obviously lies, we need to stop him. And so I realized that we need to do all we can to stop him, and that it's true anybody can become president. And so I had started thinking about it then and just decided to do it approximately 2.5 months ago or so.
Oh, wow. So that was pretty quick. Yeah. Well, it's interesting, his rhetoric. I think it's the whole, like, if you repeat things enough times, people will believe it's true.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what he does a lot.
He's proving that true. It's very sad.
Yeah. And so, but you're not the only comedian recently there was a comedian that ran successfully for office in
Ukraine.
That's what it was.
Yeah, Zelensky, a comedian with no political experience at all. So I got that edge over him. Just won by a landslide, 75% of the vote over the incumbent president. And his only experience in the past was playing the president on a TV show, on a comedy show. So
he played a president on it. So that's like if Keegan-Michael Key wanted to run for president because he played him in a sketch show.
Yeah, it'd be great if he ran as Obama. That would be pretty amazing.
Yeah. I wonder if Luther if you get a vote for Luther too as the running mate.
That would be amazing. So there's a precedent now that has been set, and I feel like the reason I'm throwing my hat into the ring is I think a lot of the Democrats running seem like intelligent, passionate people, but I don't know if any of them, as career politicians who have to protect their careers and get reelected, if they don't win as president, you have to get reelected to Congress. I'm not inspired or convinced that any of them have the ability to stop Trump. He's an anomaly with a unique set of skills. He's the greatest heckler in political history, and the only way to assure you defeat a heckler is with a comedian. I can play his game, and I can outmaneuver him verbally, and it's so important. So we can have as many big goals as we want to change the world, but if we lose again because we run a ineffectual candidate, then our country is in dire trouble.
Well,
so I'm gonna fix it.
Yeah. So you're doing what you can, which is running. So are you worried that people won't take you seriously because you're a comedian?
I'm not worried about it, but it definitely has been a big question on people's minds. I've been doing a lot of media over these last couple of weeks, and that is the first question almost everybody asks. And you have to convince them. But I think if you listen to me speak for 2 minutes, you realize how serious I am about it. And people it's amazing, even a lot of comedians, like, take a minute to understand what I'm doing and that I'm serious about it. And it's like, I know some comedians are a self-hating group, but we are losing sight of the fact that comedy serves a lot of purposes. It's not just for release and to be silly.
I've said this in the podcast before. I really do believe that comedy is a great way to create, like, social change.
Big time.
If it's, like, I've used Modern Family as a TV show as an example of how people finally, I feel like, embraced homosexuality and more just showing a couple having the same fights that everybody else has.
Right. And even just more directly, the fact that people turn to comedians for many, many years now for their news. They trust Jon Stewart and John Oliver and Samantha Bee more than they trust the news anchors. So if we trust comedians for our news more than the professionals, because we think they lie, then why wouldn't we trust comedians to be our leaders more than the professionals who are known for nothing but lying, basically? Washington's where the lies come from. Comedy Club's one of the last bastions of truth in our world.
Oh, I like that. That's interesting.
Thank you very much.
One of the last bastions of truth.
Yeah, that's right.
So when you started comedy, did you expect it to get to this point? Or
hell no.
Why did you start
I didn't expect it to go to this point necessarily even 2 years ago. What made me start comedy is that I love making people laugh. I love, it's what I've always been the best at. It's come the most natural to me. I see the world usually through a comedic lens, except lately where I see it through a very intense, serious lens, and comedic still. I love making people laugh, so I just always wanted to make people laugh. My comedy's always been imbued with some serious messages. George Carlin is my template for comedy. He's the reason I'm a comedian. And he did a lot of silly stuff and a lot of impactful social commentary. So I've always had a little bit of both. But it just took a turn recently when I just kept watching the news and thinking I would regret the rest of my life if Trump won again and I didn't at least offer my voice in this race and offer my help in it and offer that I think I could be a good leader and can take us out of it, because not just am I a comedian, I'm a regular person. Stand-up comedians are regular dudes, regular guys and gals. We travel the country. I've been traveling for 19 years to towns big and small around the whole country, hanging with regular people. That is who my people are. And so if you wonder why the country keeps widening in its wealth and income gap, and why it's harder and harder to be upwardly mobile, and why the rich keep grabbing more and more of the pie only for themselves and leaving us all out to dry, it's because we keep electing. Does it seem like possibly it's because we keep electing the super wealthy and career politicians who are so far removed from regular people's lives? We should try a regular person for a change.
That's true, but it is about money. Money helps a lot in politics.
Big part of the problem.
Are you planning not to take any corporate money, or is there?
Oh, I've absolutely pledged to take no corporate PAC money, no lobbyist money, no super PAC money. We're not taking any of that.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, and so we're trying to run a true grassroots campaign, but even more than that, I'm also trying to do something that none of the other Democratic candidates are doing, except for Elizabeth Warren, who just announced that she also is doing this, except she's already been doing it, which is why she's allowed to stop now, because she already has millions and millions of dollars. But I'm trying to not do what every other candidate does, which is spend 5 hours a day on the phone calling rich donors. Did you know that? Did you know that all the Democratic candidates spend 4 or 5 hours a day just calling rich people, kissing up them, and begging for money?
Saying, oh, I'll do this, or these are the things.
Who knows what they're saying?
Yeah.
But I'm trying to not do that. I've not done it yet. There may be a point where I have to make some calls to some rich friends, but I haven't even done that yet. I have not asked for money we're just all small dollar donors right now.
That's great.
And that's why I'm really, truly trying to bring an outside voice to this race. It's so expensive to do. We're operating against political machines with millions of dollars, and our average donation is $8.68. Which is about a 66% discount off Bernie Sanders' $27. And so I ask everybody listening, if you believe in this, we're calling it the Democracy Challenge because we really want to test our democracy and see if people really have a voice or not, and if they will allow a regular person in the race or not. And so the cutoff, the threshold to make the Democratic debates, which are just in a few weeks, is 65,000 individual donations of any amount.
So it could just be like $1.
It could be $1. And whatever you can afford, of course, is better because it's expensive to run these things. But even $1 is so helpful. If anybody listening can donate just $1 at Gleib2020.com, Gleib 2020.com, you can do it on your phone right now while you're listening. Your phone can do both at once. It's something I learned recently, or on your computer. And then if you do it, try to get 5 or 10 of your friends to do the same. We only have 2 weeks left to qualify for that threshold, and there's only one spot left on the debate stage. And wouldn't you want to see a comedic voice and a different voice in there?
They cut off different spots. How many spots there are?
There's 20 total spots, 2 nights of debates back-to-back, 10 candidates per night. And if we get 65,000, I'll be up there with Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders and all the big cats.
So, yeah. So for somebody, I mean, people know who you are through being on Chelsea Handler and also hosting a game show.
True. I've never been on Chelsea Handler. I did try once, but I was on Chelsea Lately for a long time.
Oh, sorry. Chelsea Lately.
I did make a move once. She was not interested, but she's still a close friend. Yeah, I was on Chelsea Lately, and then Idiot Test is on Netflix and on Game Show Network, my brain teaser game show. And they know me from my, hour stand-up special on Amazon Prime, Neurotic Gangster.
Yeah.
There's lots of ways they can know me, but they've not known me like this before, and hopefully people are interested in having somebody. The other thing with comedy is you need to know real people really well to make them laugh, and to write jokes that make everyday Americans laugh. And that's what I'm good at. And so I think in every way of my life that I'm a real person, and I have the same struggles that you've had. Surprisingly, doing the panel of Chelsea Lately or having a game show on basic cable does not pay as well as you think. And so I've struggled even in recent years with paying bills and trying to figure out how to pay for health care when I had a health scare and needed a surgery. And I have a lot of the issues direct experience with them. So if you want someone that'll actually change our policies because he actually has the same problems as you, not just intellectually understands them, then I ask people to consider my campaign. You can see all the information about my policy positions on the website, Gleib2020.com.
So what are some of the...
I'll give $1.
So what are some of the most important issues that you would change right now?
Well, a lot of things. The most important thing once we stop Donald Trump is taking our democracy back. That's our slogan, and we're changing to that slogan from Let's Save America, okay, to take our democracy back. Our democracy has just been, our voice has been taken from us, not just by Trump, but by the fact that he enables Russia, the fact that he does not stop their intrusion into our democracy and our sovereignty. He does not seem to keep as a priority. The fact that Republicans in Congress gerrymander around black people and around minorities, so their voice and their vote counts less. The fact that
I keep thinking if Stacey Abrams had won, her state, like this stuff wouldn't be happening that's currently happening.
Part of why it happened was because Georgia was so horrible with trying to repress the vote. And so we need to make sure, under my administration, messing with people's right to vote in any way is a jailable offense. We stop that with the greatest seriousness we can bring. So that's one big issue. I want to make sure everybody's finally covered with health care. Obamacare didn't do it. Yeah. It was well-intentioned, but there's still millions of Americans without it. And so that is a problem and something that we need to fix and stem immediately. But I want a combination of Medicare for all with the private system just so we don't shock the economy by completely unwinding this very complex thing that is Obamacare. We want to treat people humanely. We want to stop putting children in cages. It's nice to have cage-free eggs. How about cage-free kids? How about letting them roam free?
That stuff is... There's always something big in the news happening of what's going on. And just if you actually make a list of all the things that have happened and how crazy it is for any other president, any of these one individual things would have sunk them.
100%.
So why do you
He's actively against the environment. He took us out of the Paris Climate Accords. This is the greatest fight of our times.
2 countries that didn't assign that?
It's insane. We must get back in that and then fight for a more stringent treaty. We have to accept most parts of the Green New Deal and work towards that. We have to save our planet. It's the battle of our lives. And I want to frame these things in ways that Republicans can get on board with too. Instead of them labeling us as tree huggers, I instead want to challenge them. Are you not tough enough to take on this challenge? I thought you're tough people. Let's fight. Let's save our lives.
Do you think the future, because I feel like we have been so divided, very, very far right or very far left, do you think that people are going to be more in the middle, or do you think people are still going to be completely separate? And how do we gauge that? How do we fix that?
I think the way you fix it is through listening to each other, talking to each other, making each other laugh. It's another area where I think a comedian's helpful is I go in all the time. I have tons of experience going into Republican rooms, Democrat rooms, mixed rooms, and relating to everybody and making everybody laugh and getting everybody to laugh and applaud on common sense gun control that we need to keep our kids safe in school while keeping your right to bear arms. Mm-hmm. There's middle grounds on these issues, but people stuck in the system are so entrenched, they're afraid to step out of their party line at all. And so they don't value as much bringing people together. They have a much more tribalistic stance. And coming from the outside, I don't like the party system. I'm a Democrat because it's more in line with my values and it's how I can get a platform to talk about these things. But I've always been declined to state. I'm independent-minded and I go issue by issue. I host a monthly show at the Improv called We the People.
Where you people on both sides, right?
Yeah, I moderate a talk with 2 on the left and 2 on the right, and we try to find solutions on each issue. So we need things like that. We have to talk to each other, we have to listen, and we have to be open to compromise. And I think that's something I'm good at doing. But regardless if it's me or not, our country needs to stop being at each other's throats and stop letting the false narrative of left versus right be what we accept as fact. We're not against each other, left versus right, or Republican versus Democrat, or liberal versus conservative, or red versus blue. They even color-coded us, Sarah. That's the exact colors of Bloods and Crips.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Maybe we'd have a more chill political discourse if our colors were peach and lime green. But I don't even think we need colors. We need to realize the real battle is top versus the rest of us. It's the top 1% that are trying to take away all of our money and all of our voice and keep it all for themselves, and that's the battle we all have to fight together.
Well, how would you fix that? How do you feel about capitalism overall? Do you think that is it working? Do you think it's not? Is it?
I love capitalism, and I went on Fox Business Network the other day, and they tried to introduce me as a compassionate socialist, and I said, what I call myself is a compassionate capitalist. And they were intentionally misbranding that. I love capitalism. It's the system that our country's based on. It's what makes us have the ability of being upwardly mobile, of being able to strike it rich if you succeed, if you work hard, and if luck and a bunch of other factors work in your favor. My grandfather came here after being in a labor camp in Siberia during World War II, then went to Israel, helped basically build that country, and then came to America with no money and made a huge business success of himself, ended up living in Beverly Hills, and he did that through the American dream. I would never go against capitalism, but I think why I call myself a compassionate capitalist is that we are both capitalist and socialist. We have both. We are both, and it's ridiculous that we
label it so much.
Label it that we're one or the other.
We've had libraries and fire departments for a really long time, you know?
Yes, and even Trump's a socialist. He tries to control prescription drug costs. That's socialist. That's not free market. He puts tariffs on Chinese goods. That's not a free market principle. That's using the power of a country to affect the free market, to bend it to your will. And then he gives subsidies to farmers who suffer from his bad policies. And that's socialist. So we need to stop all this name-calling and labeling left and right and realize that we are both, and let's just start working towards solutions. And my neck has been turned so long to the right, it hurts so much. Interestingly, turned to the right. I'm trying to find compromise. I got to turn left for a second. Oh, that feels good.
So how
I'm going to tilt so I'm less turning.
Yeah,
I have a weird neck lately. I've been doing so much traveling and working, it's been banana.
Yes, and this is one of the few podcasts we're not actually doing in a bed. We're doing it on a couch.
I would have loved to, but I feel like it's not the move for a presidential candidate.
For presidential candidate, probably not the best.
Probably not the best. Plus, my girlfriend might have issues with it. She just moved in yesterday.
That's a big step.
I've never lived with anybody, so it's a pretty awesome step. I'm really excited.
You learn a lot. I've had a failed situation from one of those, but I was like just out of college, like pretty young. So,
So the only time you did it?
Yeah. Lived with him. I was with him for like 5 years. Didn't work out. Then I started comedy.
You're from Chicago, right?
Yeah, I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, but I came up in Chicago.
We met in Chicago. Yep,
after your Zanies. Doing Zanies a couple times.
Yep.
Yeah.
How has your experience been out here in LA?
I love it. I like it. It's a bit different. You know, obviously clubs take a little bit longer if you don't have a name, but I feel awesome that I know so many people writing in writers' rooms. You know, and I realize that's like pretty attainable. You know, it's not unheard of. How'd you get your first writing job out here?
You know, I haven't done that many writing jobs on staff of shows. I've only done a lot of writing jobs on shows that I'm the host of or the shows that I created.
Oh.
But I did. My first job, my first legit job was as one of the 3 writers of the Radio Music Awards for ABC. It's a defunct now award show in 2001.
Oh, wow.
And it's a 3-hour award show live on ABC. And I was pretty fresh out of college. And we worked for 3 weeks. We wrote a 3-hour award show with everybody in music. 1 week here and then 2 weeks in Vegas, where it was broadcast from, and it was hosted by Christina Aguilera and Gavin Rossdale.
Wow.
Destiny's Child was on it, Jay-Z, Mariah Carey, Shakira's first performance ever on an American stage was on that show.
Wow.
I was backstage when she rehearsed, and she was so nervous. Smiled at her, and she smiled, and she seemed to, like, take a deep breath at that moment. It was kind of cool. And everybody was on that show. It was pretty amazing. I also kind of messed up the ending of it, but I was a young kid and didn't know what I was doing.
So the end of the 2001 Radio Music
Awards.
Yeah. What would you have changed about the ending?
So I was the new guy, and so they were not only having me, we wrote, but then during the live show, instantly on a live award show, you get behind schedule instantly, and they're like, oh my God, we're 12 seconds over. We have to cut 12 seconds from a script. You have to literally find 4 words to cut.
Are you serious?
And then run to the prompter truck, which is not nearby, and make those changes. You think they put them closer together. Be a lot smarter. And then I had to run back there, like, now we're short. Add back stuff. And you add back, and you're constantly adjusting the script up and down.
Like during the live?
During the live show as it goes.
This is the way it is for like the Oscars, Grammys, everything else?
Oh, yeah. They're I think the Oscars probably cares less because they're allowed to run long.
Yeah.
And they just run long, but Radio Music Awards weren't as respected, I guess. And so I was running back and forth all show, but then at the very end, when they introduced the last performance, Nika Costa singing Everybody's Got Their Something, a song I love, I just went to the other side of the stage to watch the performance. And I watch it, and it's great, and the show's supposed to be over, and then Gavin Rossdale and Christina Aguilera come back on stage, and they're like fumbling for their words, and they don't know what they're saying, they're trying to say goodnight, and I go back on the other side of the stage, and I'm getting yelled at by the head writer who was like, fucking new guy, you messed up. We were looking for you to go add copy. We were short and needed to give a closing to the show, and I did not
Because you were watching the performance.
I was just watching, and I was not able to get the final script to the prompter truck, and I was not rehired the next year.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the way it is in LA, right? It's like it doesn't work out. You're just not rehired. It's not like an official.
Yeah,
with all the writing.
Yeah, everybody still pretends like they're cool. I still got a letter thanking me for my work on that show, and then didn't get rehired. Brad Wallach got rehired the next year in my place, and then he ended up being one of the main writers and executive producers of Chelsea Lately, and the new David Spade upcoming show. But fun fact about that award show, by the way, Mariah Carey only agreed, it was after her meltdown, her first performance after her meltdown, she only agreed to perform if she won an award. So they rigged the Audience Choice Award for her.
They rigged it?
Yep.
Oh, man.
That's a little news bit for you.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, so then other than that, I've never written on the staff of a show. I've just written on things that I performed in. So I became the head writer of Idiot Test. Mm-hmm. And I was the head writer of the Telethon for America that I created back in November.
And you're a panelist on Chelsea Lately.
Yeah, I was just a panelist on Chelsea. I was not on the staff.
Yeah.
I would just go in there, tell pop culture jokes. Chelsea would make fun of me, and I get out of there.
So for the panelists there, did you write your own jokes? Or did other people? Yeah.
No, I wrote my own jokes. Yeah. The panelists wrote their own jokes. You would go in, and they'd give you the topics like 2 hours before. You'd write them at home, and then drive to the studio and run them by the producer if you wanted to or not, and then go out in air and just try them. And if they worked, great. And if not, Chelsea would make fun of me with the Wrath of a Thousand Summers.
That's kind of a good plus, you know. If it works, it works. If
True.
not, you know, you still get the...
I did. That was the socialist, capitalist vibe there. You struggle to get your joke out. You hope you succeed. And if not, the safety net is Chelsea will get you a laugh anyway.
So where are you from originally?
Here in L.A.
Oh, you are? Born and raised?
Born and raised.
In L.A. proper? Like...
Yeah, I was born in the Valley, and then I grew up on the West Side, and now I'm back in the Valley. So... all over, but in the main chunk of LA. I don't think that's a proper term or official term, but yeah.
Yeah, I still think in terms of like city and suburbs, but I feel like all of LA feels like a suburb, so.
It is. It's a bunch of different suburbs all weaved together. Mm-hmm. It's a loose quilt of Americana. That's what is also so interesting about America. It's a cross-section of the world and of the country. You get a vibe of everything. There's not a lot of vibes you'd find around the country, and I've traveled to over 41 states that you don't see in some parts of California and of LA even. Southern California has got all these great different neighborhoods that really are reflective of all different walks of life.
Yeah, it's very different. No place like LA that I've lived for sure, so.
What do you think is the pros and cons of LA?
Oh, well, the pros are you can meet someone tomorrow that could literally change your life. You know, like anybody could if it's the right opportunity, the right thing. They don't have that in Chicago. Industry comes to Chicago like 2 or 3 times a year max.
Right.
At all. Con, not as much stage time as previous, you know. Pro, you get to see the best of the best do their thing every night if you want, you know. Mm-hmm. Con, harder to run a show unless you do like a variety show or something because you're competing with those big names. You know?
True.
So there's like pros and cons to all the things.
But you can also get the big names if you're running a hot show.
Yes,
that's how I built Comedy Juice. Just have only the best. You
can, and everyone's a lot more accessible than you think in terms of comedy. You know, everyone like one person over. It's not that, you know, it's a much smaller community than people think. So that's kind of cool. I love that it's warm all the time, and I like do things I never did before, like hike. I was not an outdoor person. I would not think I'd be hiking 4 times a week. Like,
good for you.
But I did that, and I'm like in the best shape of my life and all that. Like, so that's like awesome. A lot of good things with LA. And what have you ever lived anywhere else or just LA?
Just LA, and then 4 years in San Diego when I went to college at UC San Diego.
Got it.
And 2 months in Las Vegas when I was working on a show called The Real Wedding Crashers. In 2007 with an amazing cast of Steve Byrne and Desi Lydic, who's on The Daily Show now, and Gareth Reynolds and Kat Reitman, whose show Working Moms, I believe is the title, is on Netflix.
Yep.
And it was a great cast, and it was a pretty bad show.
The Real Wedding.
We crashed real life weddings.
Yes.
And I enjoyed doing it. It was like being in the comedy CIA, and the bride and groom were in on it with us, so we weren't ruining people's weddings.
That's good.
We were ruining them, but they wanted us to.
That's a good, you know, thing to put in there because that would have been awful.
It would have been pretty awful.
Yeah.
But it still was not the best. It was an hour long, and it was not received well, and it shouldn't be an hour long hidden camera show, and they tried to be like emotional while being funny and let the nice moments of the wedding play out, and people weren't in the mood for it. And they revealed the reveal during every commercial break, which is what you wait all hour to see. They kept saying, coming up, the big reveal. And they'd show people's reactions. I'm like, that's basic 101 for comedy and for hidden camera bits is you don't show the ending till the end.
Yeah.
So there were mistakes made. It was produced by Ashton Kutcher and Jason Goldberg, and they were good with Punk'd.
I thought Punk'd was great.
Punk'd was great, but they tried to basically make Punk'd, but an hour long on network TV. It was on NBC, and it didn't. It didn't fly.
Yeah, like sometimes certain concepts would work back then and wouldn't work now, and it's all over the place.
Sure.
I was going to get back to talking about the campaign. How much has in terms of comedy scheduling and everything, life changed from when you decided to run? Like, you're still doing shows, but you're combining them with campaign?
Yeah, I'm still doing shows, but much, much, much less. I just had 2 pre-existing dates that happened to coincide in these first 3 weeks of the campaign. So I'm going to Calgary tomorrow, and that's the worst possible because I can't even really do campaign events because I'll be in other countries. Yeah. So I'm just doing as much as I can digitally. I'm doing a Facebook AMA tomorrow. I'm doing interviews and podcasts via Skype and trying to make the most of the time that I can when I'm gone. But just booked a bunch of upcoming dates for like places like Iowa and places I want to be going to campaign as well. But I'm doing very little compared to normal and just trying to spend 95% of my time on the campaign. I have not been very focused on my stand-up at all. Luckily, I improvise a lot of my stand-up, and I've already got a couple hours of material that I can draw from.
Yeah.
And I'm writing new politically minded bits as well. But don't worry, if you see my act, you'll also see some fun non-political bits for sure, too.
That's good.
I haven't fully lost that side of me.
Yeah, do you feel like, so you don't feel like all of your comedy has to be all about politics?
No, but I feel like it has to be some.
Yeah, you have to have a point to it. It can't just be like, hey, we're going to do a bunch of dick jokes. You know?
Right. I'm not doing a lot of dick jokes anymore. But I have just a lot. I do have some funny personal stories I'm sharing.
Are you worried about any, like, personal things, like, coming back? Like, because most traditional presidential candidates, I think, like, worry about any, like, speckled background or things like that, or I didn't inhale, like all this kind of stuff. Are you worried about?
No, I totally inhaled and did other stuff. And
well, it's legal here now, so I think it's easier to say that.
True, but still federally illegal, so oops on that.
So wait, you're admitting that you smoke weed is also saying you're breaking a federal law.
That's correct. Yeah, all the candidates have done it though, so we're all in the same boat there. And yeah, I'm not worried about it because a comedian is known for that kind of thing, for being kind of crazy. And so I've definitely been crazy, and I've enjoyed my life, and I've made manifold experiences, so many memories, and I don't believe I've ever wronged anybody, and that's what matters. Yeah. And so I've had tons of fun, mutually enjoyable good times, and I've talked about much of it in my stand-up act, so I have nothing to hide, unlike a lot of these politicians, so I'm fine with everything that might come out.
That's something I've always liked about stand-up, is I feel like, you know, some of our worst experiences or biggest secrets end up being, like, really great jokes. Instead of hiding them, sharing them, it makes you feel a lot better.
Totally.
Well, what do you think really gives you the edge to win? Like, in terms of against
just the fact that I'm different. The fact that we have 23 politicians in the race mixed in with 2 multimillionaires who are the outside candidates, Andrew Yang and Marianne Williamson, are the only 2 that are not career politicians, but they're multimillionaires. And I think that I'm a regular person who knows regular people, and I think that is something that should be very appealing to people. I hope it is. And that combined with the fact that I'm just a regular person who also happens to be, for my day-to-day job, a comedian who has the experience necessary to help ensure we take down the Orange Monster, to help make sure we stop treasonous Trump, traitorous Donnie, crybaby Donald.
You already got all the names coming out.
Toupee Fiasco.
Oh, yeah.
Coward the Duck, Napoleon Bone Spurs. I will take this guy down, and I will call him out on his bullshit in a way more aggressively and in an improvised, in-the-moment way that a lot of these candidates won't do. And if you want to see that in the debates, and you want to see that, please, I'll say it one more time, please donate $1 or whatever you can afford at Gleib2020.com, Gleib 2020.com, right now on your phone or on your laptop. And please tell your friends. We have less than 2 weeks, but if we get 65,000, I will be on that debate stage. It's that easy.
That's pretty cool that that's all it takes. It's
from the first time it's ever been that way.
From anywhere. Oh, yeah, it's the first time they've allowed that?
Yeah, it's the first time they've had such a transparent and accessible threshold. You need 200 donations in each of 20 states as well.
Okay.
But with 65,000, that shouldn't be hard to achieve. And we already have thousands. We just need to get a lot more in these next 2 weeks. We're not close enough.
So are you definitely only going to consider running for Democratic office?
Yes,
you wouldn't
because
okay.
Wouldn't do independent?
Yeah.
No, because I don't want to elect Donald Trump again, and I would just take votes from Democrats.
That's good.
I would never be a spoiler. I'm not going to Ralph Nader the situation.
Yeah, that's good. And then, is there any other like short spiel of why people should pick you over anybody else?
If you want change, you have to vote for change. If you want things to be different, you have to vote for something different. You cannot keep doing the same thing and expecting different results. It's literally the definition of insanity.
That's true.
So our politics are insane, and the state of our country is not in the most sane place, and it's because we keep saying we want things to be different, and then we keep only taking seriously career politicians and the super wealthy to be our leaders. They care about the super wealthy and other career politicians and keeping their jobs. They don't care about you. So try it. Try somebody who's known for the truth, and that's what comedians do. That's what I've always done my whole life. I tell the truth.
All right. I think that's a pretty good
That inspired me. I don't know if people listening got inspired, but I'm donating.
Yeah. I think that's pretty awesome. And you would, let's see, are you the youngest?
Not even the youngest anymore, sad to say.
Oh, wow.
I'm getting old.
I don't even know how old you are.
I'm 40.
What?
Almost 41.
Oh, wow.
Mayor Pete is 37.
Oh.
Tulsi Gabbard is 38. Eric Swalwell is 36 or 37.
Wow.
So I'm the fourth youngest.
Oh, wow.
And even though I've not held political office before, politics is in my blood. My great-great-grandfather is Bernie Sanders. I wish that were true.
Yes. That's awesome. And I know you said you just had your girlfriend move in. Is she prepared for political life?
I haven't told her I'm running, so I've been keeping it really quiet.
Really quiet, hiding all the signs.
Hiding the signs and the buttons. No, she's totally cool with it. She's been my right-hand woman. She's been there with me every step of the way. She's been so incredible. She's a dental hygienist and has her own job, and she's working with me the second she gets home from work, helping design flyers and stickers and step and repeats, and she's the assistant treasurer of the campaign. Like, she's amazing.
Oh, that's awesome. And also, she has her own job. That's an interesting point, because a lot of these people that run, career politicians, their spouse, is a very supportive person, I'm sure, but, not have, like, two-income household situation.
I'm sure that's true. Not that they need the extra income.
Yes.
They're all doing pretty well financially.
I know. Well, this is really awesome. Good luck to you, and thank you for doing the podcast.
Of course. Sorry we weren't in bed. Maybe next time.
Yeah. Oh, wait, there's one more question I ask everybody. We didn't talk as much about sleep in this one, but what are your, then, dreams for the future for yourself?
My dreams My dreams is that I will know English better. My dreams are that our country gets back on track and gets back to a place that we are proud of again. It certainly does not have to be under my leadership. I would be honored beyond belief to be chosen, but I just want to do whatever I can to make sure a Democrat wins and to make sure we start fighting for values that we are proud of again, and that we are a country that when we go to sleep at night, we can sleep easy because we know that we are being the people that our parents raised us to be, and that we are not succumbing to our worst instincts, but instead are elevating to try to always improve and make a better world for people to come. And I pray that when all of that is done, my dream is that I can then return to being funny again. I'm so serious these days. It is mind-boggling.
Is it hard? Do you want to just give joke answers all the time?
Yes, I have to not give joke answers all the time, and that's not easy. I've done hundreds of podcasts in my life, all of them a lot funnier than these, but I still threw some jokes in. I have to throw some jokes in. I'm bringing some sly comedy in there.
I think it's hard, because you feel like you have to be... Why do our leaders have to always be so serious?
Totally. I will be a funny president, that's for sure. I'll be a funny candidate.
I think that's also why people really liked Obama. I felt like he was very relatable and...
Pretty darn funny guy.
Pretty fun. Pretty cool, like having, Beyonce, like, play at the White... having, he listened to good music. I think that was...
Jay-Z at his rallies.
Yeah.
And I think that when I dropped the mic at my last correspondence dinner, I set a high bar.
With the correspondence dinner? Like, people just not showing up anymore.
Well,
like,
Trump doesn't show up, so why would people show up? It's guys, you can't take a joke. The biggest trash talker, and that's the best example of why a comedian can take him down. It's a great example you just pointed out. He can't even handle a comedian for 15 minutes at the correspondence dinner. Imagine if you had to handle one for a year.
Oh, yeah.
I need to write that down. It's pretty good.
Well, thanks for joining the podcast. We always end by saying good night. So good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Sleep well.
Thanks for listening to Sleeping with Sarah, where I interviewed Ben Gleib. Be sure to go to Gleib2020.com and make that donation, big or small, so he can get on the debate stage. You can also follow Ben on Instagram and Twitter at Ben Gleib. If you like the podcast, please rate and review on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Play. We're brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/sleepingwithsarah. I'm releasing a new podcast each week, so please tune in to find out who I have in bed with me next. Thanks to Josh Bryant for the music, and if you want to find out more, please go to sarahallbritton.com and follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Sarah Albritton. Until next time, good night.